Everyone, welcome. We'll be starting shortly. We're just letting everybody in that's trying to join in. So just one moment. Okay, I think we'll get started. So hi again, this is Teresa Mourad. I'm the Director of Education and Diversity Programs at Ecological Society of America. And you are with the Engagement and Communication Panel, which seeks to develop students' ability to look at patterns, ask questions about what they observe, ways of visualizing, articulating, and communicating them. So we have a panel for you today that's going to dive into all these questions, and then you will have an opportunity to join them in breakouts where they will go into greater detail. So today we have a panel of 4 speakers, and I think I'm going to just introduce them one by one and then let them introduce themselves and then as they speak. So we'll just go into the order that they're listed on the program. So our first speaker will be Sandra Arango-Caro from the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center. All to you, Sandra.
Thank you, Teresa. Do you hear me well? So I am an education researcher and program manager at the Education Research and Outreach Lab of the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center in St. Louis, Missouri. And our lab is very focused in inspiring the next generation of plant scientists. And to accomplish this goal, we work with teachers and students offering professional development and very exciting activities to engage the students. And today, I'm going to talk about 2 particular activities that we have designed with high school students about authentic research experiences. And these are activities that could be adjusted for middle school or undergraduate levels too. And basically an authentic research experience is allowing the students to collect data and to really experience conducted research and collaborating with scientists directly, and that will allow the students to empower themselves, feel as if they are scientists, and of course to collaborate with those scientists. The first experience well, in general, these activities, these 2 activities focus on the relationship of the genotype to the phenotype and working with macro and microorganisms. So the first one is about working with corn, and the students grow corn seedlings. They measure leaf angle, which is a phenotypic characteristic that is linked to density and yields. And then the students measure this leaf angle manually and using a plant CV imaging analysis software, and you will hear more about it. The other activity is working with the green algae ball box because another scientist at the Danforth is interested in the evolution of multicellularity, and students work with populations of wild type and mutagenized ball box and screen for mutants. So through these 2 activities, the students are collecting data, interact with the scientists, and are activities that you can implement in classroom settings as well as independent research projects that students have been conducted from home. And of course, they are hands-on, and we provide free professional development and supplies for these activities. And for the equipment, we have a long rotation system. So keep that in mind if you are interested to implement these activities in your classrooms or with your students independently. And well, the students are going to learn concepts related to life cycles, to the relationships between the genotype and the phenotype, They are going to gain skills, for example, related to microscopy and to image analysis and programming. And well, the fact that they're collaborating with the scientists is a great experience. So we have found that these activities are very engaging, are a novel way of learning. And well, the students have been so motivated that they wanted to continue working with us, and you will hear from some of them who are currently now interns in our lab. So thank you for this opportunity, and I hope to hear you again in our breakout room.
Great. Thank you so much, Sandra. Our next speaker is Madison Shear from Colorado State University.
Thank you, Teresa. Can you hear me all right? Awesome. My name is Madison. I am a graduate student right now at Colorado State University in Mina Balgopal's lab, and it is a science education research group. Before returning to graduate school, though, I was an earth science teacher, high school teacher for 4 years, and also a chemistry teacher. So my interest in coming back to grad school was, engaging in the discipline more. My degree's in ecology, but the research is in science education. So I study climate change education in rural schools in Colorado, mostly on the Eastern Plains, where there's a lot of fracking and agriculture, and I talk with teachers about how they communicate this socio-scientific issue to a stakeholder community where lots of students are coming from families that are dependent on those extractive industries that are contributing to anthropogenic causes of climate change. And so what I'm going to be talking about in my breakout panel today is modeling scientific reasoning. And this has kind of become an emergent theme in my data about how how teachers teach scientific reasoning and model that when giving claims and evidence in their classroom, and specifically with climate change. So we'll be doing a few activities on that, and I'll be sharing some resources on how to teach that in your own classroom. And yeah. Teresa, I think you're muted still.
Indeed, I am. So I'll say next, we have Ashley Allred from the Cary Institute of Ecosystem Studies.
Thank you, Teresa. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Allred, and I am the Education Program Leader at the Cary Institute of Ecosystem Studies in Millbrook, New York. And Cary is an ecological research institute where scientists are doing cutting-edge studies on various topics about freshwater, forest, disease ecology, and urban ecology. And our education team offers educational programming and resources for K-12 and undergraduates throughout the year that connects Cary science to the local community as well as to the rest of the state and the country. And we specialize in schoolyard ecology, high school, summer research experiences, and data literacy. So my presentation today is centered around data literacy and communication in the form of data jams. Now, some of you may be familiar already with what data jams are. A data jam competition is where students in middle school and high school get introduced to a local ecology research. And in the Hudson Valley specifically, many of the data sets that we make available for data jam come directly from Cary scientists. So once students identify a trend in the data, they must communicate this trend through a creative medium. And then they communicate to the public, and we conclude with an award ceremony. So the data jams began in 2012 at the Asombro Institute for Science Education, which does K-12 educational programming for the Jornada Basin LTER in New Mexico. And that's where they coordinated the first desert data jam. Since then, data jams have reached thousands of students, and there are now 6 regional data jams across the country, including Puerto Rico. And Cary Institute hosts the Hudson Data Jam competition. And as much as I love Data Jam, my presentation is not about necessarily promoting that everyone get involved in a Data Jam. And I also understand that many of us are not K-12 educators, but rather my presentation connects Data Jam to the 4DEE framework. So we suggest that Data Jam is a model for how we can apply ESA's four-dimensional ecology education framework. And so as educators, we're all trying to find ways to integrate ecological core concepts with practices, as well as involve the human dimension in learning about socio-ecological issues. And communication is one ecology practice that can be deeply engaging and motivating for students and is effective in combining ecology practices with knowledge of core ecology concepts, as well as the human dimension. So we believe that a data jam or a similar project is just one model for how we can cut slices across the three dimensions, or these three main dimensions of the 4DEE framework, and address these goals. So we have insights in how to choose data sets that have both a human dimension and ecology component, how to support students in understanding local ecology, as well as support the practices of data inquiry and science communication. So during my presentation, I will be showing how the Data Jam model is an engaging way to focus on these communication practices and integrating across the dimensions. I'll be sharing fun examples of students' creative projects, suggesting ways to support the creative communication component for students. And finally, since we had to cancel our Data Jam competition this year, we actually hosted our first virtual Data Jam. So I'll be sharing insights into how Data Jam and related student projects can be very effective in a distance learning landscape. So I look forward to seeing many of you soon.
Wonderful. And last but definitely not least, my dear colleague, Carmen Sid from Eastern Connecticut State University.
Thank you. My name is Carmen Sid, and I'm a forest and wetland ecologist and also Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences at Eastern Connecticut State University. I will be giving a very short overview of now of a human-centered, place-focused approach to engaging multicultural students in the study of ecology. And this is a collaboration with Dr. Jillian Bowser, who's a associate professor of ecosystem science and sustainability at Colorado State University. We are concerned about the factors that have been identified by ecologists as affecting their professional development. So our collaboration focuses on designing a field experience that is usually experienced as a rite of passage and making it more comfortable and more approachable to multicultural students. We are trying to make sure that our design increases a sense of belonging in the culture of ecology and in the environmental field experience for these students. We are building on a sense of place that the students may already have and connecting them through online research and other ways to the field site that's being used. And ultimately, we are using 4DE types of ecology practices to get the student to feel and develop as a field scientist. So these are the techniques that we'll be talking about. The design of this field experience that develops an ecological scientist mindset has more or less 5 steps. So we'll get a lot of detail at 2:45 today. First, we recruit students who show leadership potential, because you need to be resilient to be out there and try on something you haven't done before, especially for the diverse students underrepresented in ecology. You are getting the students to form research teams on their own, centered around a topic they picked. So we give them a choice of topics, at least 3. You have to choose project ideas that can easily be connected to the cultural values and interests of multicultural students. You have to integrate in the field experience ways of developing a sense of place to the research site, and also time for shared reflection so the students are building their connection to each other in the team. And make sure you have great phone apps to work with to help the students develop their skills, and also use art as a way of visualizing what projects they want to work on. So the focus of our field experience design is on the comfort, the connection to place, the confidence building, and then after that, the building of capability through the use of 4DE practices. And at 2:45, we'll have lots of examples of how this has been done. Dr. Bowser is the expert on this, and she'll be joining us then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I don't actually see any questions right now, so I want to invite the participants to please, chime in here. I know many of you have been teaching for more than 10 years, so I'm sure you have plenty of ideas as well and plenty of questions and comments. So please don't hesitate to post them in the Q&A section of the Zoom area there that you see on the menu bar. But to get us started, I'm actually curious about, what the whole, I guess the entire panel, as you're sitting here and thinking about this area of engagement and communication, what are the latest things that you're hearing as the most powerful things, about teaching students how to communicate science and how do we engage our students? What are the characteristics? Would someone like to start us off?
I think if you can connect the students to the place that you're going to be having them do field work, and this may require that you assess where they're coming from, and that you get from the various applications that they may, if it's a summer research experience, but you have to get some information on where the students are in terms of their connection to the environment and to field experiences. What good things do they already associate with that, and then build from there. If you don't have any pre-assessment of where the students are, it's harder to develop an experience that engages them in the study of nature.
So I guess I'm going to push back a little bit and say, okay, is this, I guess, link to place really that essential? How essential is it? Is it like the first thing? Is it the most important thing? What do others think? Sandra, would you like to respond to that?
Well, definitely the link to the site to where you are is super important. And I will associate it to something else, and it's to this sense of belonging, since our experiences are for students to conduct at home. In some way, their site is their home. And in addition, the fact that they are totally in charge of the activity. They contacted me, they pick up the materials, they did the whole activity on their own. Is when that sense of belonging is linked to where are they conducting their activity. So I think it's an additional parameter to take into consideration.
Interesting. Would any of the other two panelists like to respond? Okay. Well, actually, this is related to Andrew's question that he posted. He says, most of you talk about some aspect of providing student choice. And I think, Sandra, you just talked about that. Can you elaborate on the role that student or participant choice plays in teaching communication and achieving engagement?
Well, I can just follow up on this just because today during our breakout, you will hear from our students. So for them, just the fact that they have the opportunity to participate of a conference and disseminate their experience and their results, and it's definitely an excellent way for high school students, to communicate science through scientific events.
Ashley, maybe you would like to comment on that since you're doing a lot of communication work with using the data jam project.
Yeah, sure. So I would say definitely for Data Jam, specifically, choice is incredibly important and is really a motivator for students because when first off, you're allowing students to choose a data set from a whole collection of things that might interest them. So they might be interested in, plants or animals or the human dimension, and they can choose something that is interesting to them. But and on top of that, they're getting to tap into whatever kind of artistic medium really suits them. And so they could be doing a video, they could be doing a painting, they could be doing a song, and having that choice to present things that plays to their strengths, I think is really powerful and important for getting students engaged with data inquiry and communication.
I'd like to actually invite Madison to jump in because she doesn't talk so much about student choice, but instructional choice and an instructor's choice. So maybe you want to address that from that point of view.
Totally. I actually could address both. From the instructor perspective, personal choice in curriculum is limited for a lot of the teachers that I'm working with, mostly because of funding restrictions and time and resources. These teachers are often wearing multiple hats in their school and teaching across multiple disciplines and only have so many prep periods. So educational strategies and curriculum building is definitely restricted. In terms of personal choice for students, I have heard from teachers that they often assign research projects that involve student personal choice, and then they get to research a topic within climate change and kind of make their own argumentative essay. And this is an interesting project because climate change in the field of ecology is so hyper-politicized in our media that student research efforts often can be clouded by what's presented in the media versus what is data-driven. And so there's a real need for student understanding of what is reliable data and information in order to incorporate into a research project. And so that is a skill that I think teachers are trying to teach in their classroom.
And this is an interesting comment from Julia in the chat. It says choice is so vital for engagement for students of any age. However, I actually had some students who were not given choice earlier in their education and they're just afraid to choose. Have you found that? And how do you help them overcome that fear? Carmen, would you like to address that?
Which I was just responding to one of the chat that Bruce Grant had suggested. What was the question again?
So there was a comment in the chat that said that some students actually don't feel that they're afraid of making choice because in their earlier education experience they never had a choice, and so I wondered how since student choice is being advocated here, right, as a very critical piece of learning, how do you help students who are afraid of taking choice?
I think you have to make the choice a very simple one, something where we're not starting with, how am I going to investigate this kind of research topic, but are you going to work with mammals? Are you going to work with birds? Are you going to work with plants? Are you going to do if all else fails, plant pollinators? Everyone loves butterflies. So go with what's already there and it has a pleasant memory in their minds. And from there, you can develop a more complex type of environmental investigation question and choice.
Okay. So before we leave this topic, oh yes, Sandra, please go ahead.
So I wanted to add that sometimes the students don't have a choice, but because they don't know what is out there, what opportunities. And part of what we do with the Danforth Center is to offer, for example, field trips to the students to come and see what we do. And that put them to think a little bit out of the box of, oh, these people are doing all these things that I didn't know it was possible. And oh, I could do this in the future. So that helps a little to expose the students to that potential choice.
I agree. Just kind of exposing students to the range of opportunities or experiences that they can think about. Yeah, it's very helpful. Absolutely. So before we move away from the topic of choice, does anybody else like to address it? Anything else?
I just wanted to share too that I think one of the strengths to doing projects similar to Data Jam is that they can be individual projects, but they're group projects a lot of the time. And I think that having, especially like being a teacher and helping combine strengths within a group can help with that difficulty of choosing something, especially if a student isn't very comfortable with the creative side of things. Yeah, there is strength to working collaboratively in a group, and I think that can help with choice.
Okay, great, thank you. I think that was a lot of insightful comments there. So the next question is from John. How are you dealing with communications and engagement when students are not on campus or in asynchronous types of course model in the move to online? So I think we're all about this topic, this question, the whole conference. Anybody would like to respond to that?
I tend to read about others who do online discussions and always sort of force the student to post on a particular question or topic. So that way you're developing the discussion even when it's a synchronous type of meeting, and have them do it on a regular basis. So you have to give them something about current environmental issues that will get them connected to whatever it is that you're trying to teach, and have them post some reaction to it. That's more than I agree. That's a key. It can't be just a two-word thing, but something that reflects their connection to that topic.
Sandra?
Yeah, I'm thinking that, as you say, connected to also real world challenges, like climate change, as Madison had mentioned, for us is real world challenges related to agriculture. How can we feed the world? How can we link our activities, our authentic research experiences to real problems? That also help engaging the students.
Seems to me that's probably something that's something we should think about no matter what format we do, right? Whether it's online or in live or hybrid. But yeah, others who have overcome our online woes. You would like to comment? Ashley?
Yeah. I would say in terms of Data Jam, it's usually a program that requires a good bit of support for teachers and students, and that was one of the challenges of this past spring, was not being able to offer like in-person workshops. And so this was a basic adjustment, was doing these online webinars and recording them. But I think especially for working with a program where students are having to analyze data, it's often skills that maybe a lot of teachers are not super experienced with. So I think in this sort of environment, providing plenty of recorded webinars and supports for teachers in the future, as well as ones geared directly towards students and how to work in groups and get their creative juices flowing as far as what they can do artistically.
Any other thoughts? Okay, so actually might be related to your work, Ashley. This question is from Caroline. A lot of my students seem very shy about their artistic skills. How do you work with this sort of anxiety? And actually, I was curious, what kind of art are we talking about, Ashley? So
with Data Jam, art is so diverse, and like what students want to do. Some of them are really comfortable with making videos because so many are really tech savvy. Some want to create storybooks, like illustrated children's books to convey a message. And I would say one of the most helpful things is one, we have a rubric that we give educators and students so they can see, they have a structure for how to align their project and make sure it's still communicating data in a powerful way. But also just simply showing students past projects and showing all the different things that past students have done, I think is important. And even providing students the space of thinking like, what really aligns with my personal strengths and what could I do? Because it is incredibly open. I mean, students have done songs, they've done paintings, they've created puzzles, they've done comic books, like graphic novel type things. So yeah, I think just providing a lot of space and being really encouraging to what students are comfortable with.
Okay. Have other panelists used art in your projects? And
I think if I were doing something in the Hudson River or associated with the Hudson River, for me, the Hudson River School of Paintings and Artists was incredibly helpful in developing as a plant ecologist when I was an undergraduate, because I love to go see those paintings at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. So there is already a history of art painting nature, and that can be used to see this is the way it was then and how is it now for a particular site. And for any place there are paintings of years ago, such as Walden Pond. There's a whole book about Walden Pond years ago, and now that very book is being used today to see what climate change has created as a difference in the environment. So any of those resources that can be brought in so students can see how whatever they do in ecology relates to the rest of the world and through time.
mm-hmm. Yes, and Sandra?
Yes, I would like to add a very recent program that we are starting to implement. Is not related to what you will hear today in our breakout, but we are working with augmented and virtual reality with both teachers and students. So we have a new project in which high school students are going to be developing their own three-dimensional models related to plant science. And for this, as Ashley has mentioned, they will work in groups of science-oriented and art-oriented students. So both will be interacting, and one of the goals is that you as a science-oriented student realize, oh, it's good to work with an artist because I can get a lot from them to generate these models. And the way around, we want art-oriented students to realize that they could be involved in science by supporting these other students. So we are very excited about linking art and science through our ABR programs.
Wonderful. And I think just to call out something that Julia has been posting on the Q&A of some ideas about using board games. And let's see, what happened to the other one? Somebody answered it probably because it disappeared. Illustrated storybooks, right? Cartoon strips, lyrics about the topic, claymations. Okay, I'm not quite sure what claymations are, but does anybody know on the panel what claymations are? So Julia, I might have to ask you to explain that on the Q&A. But yeah, so I guess there are different kinds of media that can be employed to engage our students in a variety of different ways that will bring out the artistic side of them, I guess. Okay, wonderful. So let's take a look at the next question, which is from Anne. What are your students' reactions to thinking about how to communicate science? So this is sort of a metacognitive question, right? Not only are you asking them to do it, you're asking them what do they think about it? Have they ever thought about the lacks in how they hear about science? Not quite sure what that entirely means, but we are what. So how do you get your students thinking about communicating science?
I can speak to that a little bit. I think that's a really tricky part of curriculum for science teachers, and often is not a very obvious task for a student when asked to express a scientific concept. But a lot of the research that my advisor, Amina Bagpal, has done is writing to learn, and actual writing exercises along every step of the scientific process is really critical for students to develop their explanatory skills and kind of do what I'm going to be talking about in my workshop, which is like modeling scientific reasoning, actually applying the scientific principles and theories to connect the evidence to the claims that they're trying to make. So there's a lot of research on writing to learn, but actual like writing activities has been very successful with that.
Thank you, Madison. Others, do you get your students to think about what they think about communicating science?
If they're musically inclined, students do come up with songs about the principles they're trying to communicate. There's always rap, but it all depends on the students who are involved. I think, you know, the glee clubs of America in the high schools have sort of engaged students into doing this kind of musical communication, and we can build on that at the undergraduate level.
It's interesting. Okay, Sandra?
Well, in my case, well, I will ask my students at the end of this presentation, how do you feel about this way of communication? But actually, we are drafting already a manuscript to publish this high school independent research experience, and they are going to be co-authors. So that's another way, you know, to communicate science through, as you mentioned, by writing. This would be more, you know, scientific oriented, but it's another way that is kind of not very common at the high school level.
Right, absolutely. Ashley, would you like to comment also? No? Okay. So yeah, I think this is a really interesting idea, you know, to help our students process what they're learning or what they're doing, right? And so that they can really understand, you know, why is it and what is it that they're doing that's important. Okay, so the next question is from Bruce. Let's see. He says, all of us have made radical changes in our ecology education, especially changing our field research projects as curriculum to teach ecology in the past 7 months. What are your most interesting innovations or approaches you have devised or learned about that you found worked great under COVID and that you will retain post-COVID? Anyone?
Well, I will just so we repeat, but basically the opportunity to allow the students to conduct the research from their homes. You know, that's definitely, you know, for 7 months we have been in this lack of opportunity to be in person, but we managed to send the supplies and the equipment to the students, and have been successful. They have been able to do the activities on their own. So yes, that has worked for us, and we will continue promoting it.
Okay.
I'll add on to what Sandra said. So I completely agree. At Cary this past summer, all of our programs for elementary, middle school, high school, undergrads, they were all taking place from home, and getting participants engaged with their at-home ecology studies was really wonderful. And all of those programs had a component of having to kind of teach or present at the end of their program. And I think I can confidently say that since they had such a strong connection to their local ecology and learned so much about their homes, I mean, that personal connection did impact the quality of their presentations at the end. So the at-home ecology explorations were a very cool outcome of the situation we're all in.
Okay, great. And continuing that will be interesting too. Yeah. Okay. Others, what are your innovations that you're gonna, that's sort of, you know, a new thing that you had to adapt and then that you think you're going to continue doing?
I think the use of iNaturalist is really helpful. It's you take, for example, like you say, you take something that's very common around your house, and then you see how it's being, how that particular species is found in all these other geographical locations that you may not be aware of. And students don't realize that, you know, that species is distributed over long, you know, ranges, and perhaps, you know, worldwide, when you're talking about a very weedy species. And so once they have that, using very simple databases, they can create a research project that is online based, that looks at, you know, what factors could influence the development of that, the spread of that particular species.
Yeah, I guess this is reminds me of our keynote this morning, right? That you know, suddenly it opens up a lot of new ways to connect with new species, new chapters, you know, new campuses, and then, you know, bringing in speakers from all over that, you know, you might not ever have done before, you know, into the classroom, right? But now you can do that online, and all those other opportunities that you might not have thought about doing before, but which are actually quite simple to do if you had, you know, actually came down to think about it, to stop to think about it. But Sandra, I think you wanted to say something? Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on Carmen's example of iNaturalist, because I was going to mention the citizen science programs. They are not necessarily novel, but it's a perfect opportunity, and there are so many different options that you can perfectly do from home. So, and with your family, and some are all online, some are, you know, with real things, you know, nature related activities. So yeah, citizen science opportunities are perfect for this time.
Wonderful. I wish I were in school again, or I had little kids again,
Yeah.
so I can participate. All right. So I'm looking at the Q&A, and I'm seeing a lot of suggestions there from Julia and Susan. So thank you so much for that. I'm not going to read them out, but I think everybody has access to all the ideas there. So I want to thank the contributions, and then also in the comments. Family Data Jam, Alan is posting there about directly, explicitly, and joyously involving siblings and parents. That's right. Okay, so I think actually I'm gonna, you know, we have in 3 minutes the breakout sessions, and so you all, well, the participants have a choice of who you want to go more deeply into with any one of these panelists. So I'm actually going to suggest that instead of carrying on our discussion, we'll actually take this 3 minutes to take a break so that we can transition and allow our panelists to also take a break. And then, you know, find your links and so forth. You can find those links on the virtual program. I think you all know how to do that by now. So, and with that, I would like to thank all of you for being here and on a Saturday. Really grateful that you are taking the time on a precious weekend. And thank you to all our panelists. And we'll see you all in a little bit in the breakouts.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Oh.
Bye.
Bye.